Okay, so we're gonna talk about situational defense today, and situational defense in revolves around us actually talking about all the things we hit to recap. So we'll talk about holding runners on. So just as a reminder, when we hold the runner on, we want to make sure we start at the base, and then we're going to work our way back off the base, and we're going to communicate with our second baseman and understanding on what the situation actually is. So we start at the base, make sure we have our eye contact with the pitcher. And then we're going to, once the pitcher is on his way, once we establish that, we're going to have the timing and the cadence to acknowledge, and then we're going to retreat back to our position, remaining in an athletic position for the play. Okay. Hopefully we don't get blocked out too much by the runner on second. If we're gonna go around the base, we don't want to make so much loud noises or anything like that. We want to almost let that guy hang himself out to dry by the third base coach. So we start at the base. If we have daylight there, we can come in, use our V tag down to up, but we want to make sure we start at the base, work our way back, have good quiet cadence underneath. We're not going to be banging around the bag, patting our hands. If you want to sit back in your spot and kind of just give the, hey, I'm here, kind of pat, boom, boom, I'm there, you can do that. I said, but we want to start at the base, be quiet, and pull back off. So now on the second base side, same thing. Communicate with our shortstop and retreat back into our position once we start at the base and work off. Now, we don't want to be at the base at the same time, and we talked about this in an earlier video, but just a reminder when it comes down to all that and the way we want to set ourselves up. So the second part of this is positioning on double play depth, where we want to be. Double play depth is where we can comfortably flip the baseball from. So that's where we're going to start, and then we'll adjust from there. So anything we can try and turn a flip into at the shortstop side, anything hit on our left-hand side, we want to use our strong underhand flip to the front part of the base, follow your flip. Second baseman will come across, make the play. Never deceive him. Always want to make sure we establish good line of communication, but we want to not deceive, flip the ball straight out, give our second baseman a good feed, and the same thing happens on the shortstop side with our second baseman when he fields. Okay, so we just need to know where we are and where we're positioned, because we may end up in the hole on the backhand side, we may have to range up the middle, we may have to do all those different things, and it's important that we acknowledge where we are and where we start on the field. And if we can establish a good double play depth, we can understand where we need to go if we have to go backhand, because sometimes our best play may not be the play at second. So in the situational defensive side, depending if there's a runner on first and second, we may go backhand. We may have a play in the 6-hole there with the 6-5 force out to the third baseman. And that may not be our primary option, but it may be our secondary option. And I think that's where we start to get into the situational talk from today, is our primary and our secondary options on the field. So one of the lines of communication that sometimes we always forget is the force at second base from the third baseman. And a lot of that is, hey, I'm here, before the play happens, our pre-pitch discussion. Hey, I'm here if you got me, okay? And that may be the force at second base, so that our third baseman doesn't have to make that throw across the diamond to the first baseman. So establishing that you are there now gives the third baseman a primary and a secondary option, and I think that's important to note, because you have options on the field, and sometimes we forget that. So we may bobble a play. We can pump fake, look inside the diamond. We can draw a runner to start, maybe trying to advance to the next base or something like that. All those things maybe we need to look. So now here's an option where we're fielding a ball in our normal depth, but hey, if that guy's going to take a chance and make a bad read on the ball that's hit at us as a shortstop in that play with the runner on second base, we may have the 6-5 easy 6-5 tag play right there. Boom, we don't even need to look at the primary option, which is first base, probably on a routine ground ball to the shortstop. So same thing if we're going up the middle here, maybe there's a runner on second base, there's 2 outs, we need to lay out. We stop the ball from going to the outfield, but the runner at third may actually round the base there. And if he does round the base there, we can make our play, lay out, stop the ball. We can't get the guy at first. We no longer have an option, but we can spin, look inside the diamond, and maybe we can get that guy on a rundown going between home plate and third base. It's not the primary option, but it's a secondary option. So when you look at the situational side of the defense, you have options that are out there. You just need to know what to do when and if the ball is hit to you in any particular situation as it may arise. So the next part of this is going into the first and third defensive situations. So the offense only has a certain amount of options they're going to be able to run, right? They're going to be able to run straight through. They're going to try and steal the base. They're going to pull up. They're going to cut. They're going to delay steal. Maybe they're going to run a pickoff play where they try and advance that runner to second base. So all those things are something that could happen in that. But before that, we're going to get into the slow roller that we have to come up for, maybe as the third baseman, shortstop, second baseman, with a runner on second or third base, where we come up, make the play, but we don't have the runner at first because of the slow hit ball. We can pump fake, look to third, maybe look backdoor at second base. If the third baseman's holding his ground, we'll have an option there to go backdoor as well. All those things will happen on the secondary play, where the primary play is the first base on the slow roller that's in front of us at third, short, or second base, or even at first base if we have to come up and make a play in that sense, where we'll look for the primary play, but we don't have them. We'll turn around and we'll have to make the play. Same thing with if there's a runner on third, there's less than 2 outs, our infield is in, we read the runner, he's not going on contact, or maybe he is going on contact, but he breaks, he doesn't break. We look, we freeze the runner at third base, we look him back, and then reestablish, reset our feet. It's so important that we do that to get out of first base, and it's super important. So looking inside the diamond if you don't have the primary play. So holding the runners on, starting at the base, knowing where you are on the double play feed, starting at the base, and then work yourself back. Strong underhand flips, looking inside the diamond for the secondary play when the primary is not available or has expired. So having that presence on the field and the good communication that you can establish on the infield with your counterparts around the diamond here. So now we're going to dial it back to the first and third situations. We're in this situation, we only have a certain amount of things, and we can, as a shortstop, we want to come up, maybe without a responsibility, we're going to come up, take the throw, and now we have the runner at third in our sights, and then we have that window that we can look into to make that decision. If it's a second baseman coming across, he'll have that same opportunity. But on first and thirds, we only have so many opportunities that the offense can run in that spot. We already just went over those. So knowing who has the comebacker and who has the throw, I think is important to establish there, where if you're the shortstop, you're breaking to the bag, maybe the second baseman's got the backup, maybe backing up the throw to the pitcher inside the diamond in that spot. All those things are going to help us prevent our defense against a delay steal or a steal that's going to occur after the primary play has already transpired on the backdoor side. So being in our position, knowing where we are, making sure we cover up our base at all times. It's something it's minute, but it's a very important detail that protects us against being exposed and giving away a free 90 by falling asleep. And we never want to be able to do that. We always want to be on the offensive, on defense when we're in that position. But back to the first and thirds here. If we're in a first and third spot and the object is probably to get that runner across, and they're not trying to get to second base in that spot, they're trying to score that guy from third base. And maybe it's a situation where the second baseman here in this first and third defense, where the second baseman is going to come up, and now he has the angle at first, but he also has the footing angle to make that throw, to reset his feet, to take the angle to throw to the plate, where maybe the shortstop in this sense doesn't necessarily have that. So depending on which way the defense on the first and third is going to be run, it's something that you need to establish, and that's something we're going to work on in practice, on who has that throw and who has the primary there and who has a secondary option. But we never want to get into too many pump fakes. We want to be able to clear our lane, and we talked about that in an earlier video. In an earlier virtual practice, but the ability to clear the lane, to establish the communication, to cut the distance off between if we are in a rundown is important as well, but not let the guy go too far past us where he may run right by us. We don't want to be in that spot. So all those things are key in how we're going to orchestrate our first and third defense, but understanding what the offense is actually trying to do. So put yourself in that offensive philosophy on defense, defensive philosophy on offense, and you'll be able to have a more proactive approach because you're going to be thinking along with the coaching staff, you're going to be thinking along with yourself in the game and the rest of the guys in the infield to understand what the defense and the offense are actually trying to do. Like, what is my primary goal here? Okay, it's first and third. What's my goal? What are their options? Who's up in the lineup? How many outs are there? A lot of that's going to dictate where we're going to be on the field, our positioning, and maybe if it's first and third, we're going to play back for two in that sense. So our middle infielders really need to communicate on who has the throw, who has the backup. Looking inside the diamond at third base, what's the third baseman's job in that sense? Looking inside the diamond if the ball is hit to us with the infield in, and reshuffling our feet to check the primary. Now I'm going to go to the secondary without panicking, but I always want to make sure, going back to the basic building blocks of the infield, keeping my feet moving at all times, because we never want to get stagnant. We always want to make sure we have our feet moving, we're staying active, we're staying engaged. We never want to get flat-footed, because if we get caught flat-footed, that's where we're going to be in a negative place there. So Same thing on the second base side. A lot of times with the guy at third base, we'll have that visual. It's right in front of us, so we'll have that visual. We can freeze that runner and then shuffle our feet going over towards first base to get the primary out. And if we need to reestablish, we can always reestablish on that end. But understanding where you are to start, understanding the situation, being dictated by the outs. Maybe it's the pitch count. Maybe you're shading over because the guy's got 2 strikes. You're going to shade opposite side. All those different things need to be put in play, and you need to start thinking about those now so that when we're forced to get into some game action, maybe this summer or in the fall, that we're going to be in a good spot to be able to execute a lot of those plans, because defense is paramount, and we need to put ourselves in a better position to be successful.